I wonder why.
You're the
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Gloves Off. We have a returning guest today because he just could not get enough out of me last week. So welcome back, Mo. We appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Glad to be back.
Yeah, no, you're not. We're gonna start with a really quick update on my situation. Once again, I'm broadcasting from a bunker somewhere in the city of Miami. I'm happy to be here in a bunker. The reason that I'm in the bunker is due to, I got to read the disclaimer. I always forget to read that damn disclaimer. Okay, the opinions of the host, guests, and callers, and anyone commenting are not representative of the opinion of Mr. Singer's employer or anyone associated with Gloves Off. Okay, so there's my disclaimer. If you want to call in, you can call in. I will have a line. There we go. Call in 786-584-7665. The majority of today's program is going to be about gun control. But before I get to that, I want to give everybody an update. We're broadcasting from a bunker because of Councilman of Palmetto Bay, Steve Cody's threats to my employer. My attorney, who I hired, we'll flash the letter up on the screen, sent a letter to the Village of Palmetto Bay and Mr. Cody himself. And it says, Dear Mayor, City Manager, our City Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, and City Attorney, on Wednesday, May 12th, 2022, Council Member Steve Cody, C2, abused his power as a public official on behalf of himself and the Village of Palmetto Bay by tortuously interfering with the relationship between David Singer as an employer, period. Mr. Cody using Palmetto Bay resources via email and in hopes of having Singer terminated from his job, threatened both David Singer and his employer. Mr. Cody using Palmetto Bay resources explicitly and on several occasions attempted to interfere and damage the relationship between Singer and his employer. Pursuant to Florida Statute 768.28, please be advised that Mr. Singer is seeking a payment of $1 million from the Village of Palmetto Bay, intends to sue the city and Council Member Steve Cody for tortious interference with a business relationship and other statutory and common laws of action. Please provide a copy of any insurance policies covering this claim. So, in other words, this is the second lawsuit I've had to file against Mr. Cody or Councilman Cody due to his ability not to control himself. In my opinion, Mr. Cody has serious psychological issues and needs to seek help. Once again, I said that last week that City of Miami has Crazy Joe, and the Village of Palmetto Bay has its own Crazy Joe in the way of Mr. Steve Cody. I will not be threatened. I will not be harassed by a sitting council member or anybody for that matter. And we will take this little issue to court. Mr. Cody is a bully. He is a bully to anybody who doesn't agree with him. He's, in my opinion, once again, he's a very, very sick individual and needs to seek treatment and help. And once again, this man was brought into office by Mayor Karen Cunningham because to be her lapdog. He does exactly what she tells him to do. I wouldn't be surprised if she's putting him up to harassing me. I would be shocked if she didn't know anything about it because it's on a common thread, emails. So that's the mayor that Palmetto Bay has. Hopefully we will not have her as mayor after November. So how you doing?
Doing good. I think I'm going to try to figure out a way to bring you and Cody together. Maybe my 2003 New Year's resolution is going to be, how do I get you two to get along?
Yeah,
can't we all just get along?
I'd be very happy to go into a boxing ring with them.
Okay. Well, maybe the gloves off with David Singer.
A boxing ring would work really well.
Gloves on. Well,
yeah.
maybe I can arrange that too. Maybe we can.
So no, I mean maybe after the lawsuits, and I receive my damages.
You and Cody to fight it out and get it over.
I got no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I've never had a problem with fighting a bully. Well, I've been doing it my whole life.
Well, unfortunately, we got a sad and a more important topic to talk about today.
Before we get to gun control, because I really want to spend the majority of today on gun control. This is brand new from the Miami Herald, and it's really interesting actually. It was I guess it just came out today. It says Miami-Dade Mayor Levine Cava's free trip to Qatar Qatar, sorry. You know I was going to screw that up. Smells like 3 Old Day Fish. It's written by Doug Hanks. He's a very respected journalist and reporter with the Miami Herald. What's interesting about this is that Mayor Cava's, you know the relationship, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm always told to give you time to speak. So go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go through this for a little while.
From my understanding, that was Ulvert was Cava's campaign manager and one of.
But wait, you got to go back and tell the story. Christian Ulvert went to Qatar with Levine Cava.
Oh, the backstory.
The backstory.
I got it.
Okay, the story we got because we talked to somebody in the know, and he's a former campaign manager for Levine Cava. He's also the campaign manager for Mayor Karen Cunningham, which is kind of interesting how that all plays out. And he's being hired by Qatar to lobby, right?
Correct.
Is it Miami-Dade County?
Well, lobby Miami-Dade County. And
was he going to lobby Florida? He's going to lobby. He's a lobbyist.
Correct.
Which I don't, everybody, and their mother who wants to make money becomes a lobbyist. But you have Mayor Cunningham who's using him as a campaign manager who stands on morals and principles, so she says, and we have her campaign manager who is now basically working for a government that's anti-woman, right? Anti-gay rights. They don't have any human rights over there, and they use slaves. So, I mean, if you're going to use a campaign manager, you would think that a campaign manager would not be making money off a government. That's like being a lobbyist for Russia right now. Right.
One would assume you would be morally aligned. Yes. That's
correct. So she talks a good game, but when it comes down to it, she'll hire anybody to get reelected. And unfortunately, and I don't blame the guy for making a living, but he's literally making money off a country who abuses apparently their residents.
So for the record, you're saying that Christian Ulvert is also the campaign manager for Karen Cunningham?
Yes, Christian Ulvert is the campaign manager for Karen Cunningham.
Got it. Okay.
So Karen Cunningham claims to be, somewhat of a liberal and protects, and we keep going through this, right? We keep seeing her talking out of both sides of her mouth. She says one thing and then she turns around and does the opposite. And this has been a complete history of her like playing both sides of the fence or talking out of both sides of her mouth. She's just not a real. She just twists the truth to her advantage. Okay. So anyway, once again, he's getting paid from Qatar, which is.
I would like to see the details. Perhaps on next week's show, you can actually pull up some of the facts and.
Oh, about Qatar?
Well, and the relationship between Christian Ulvert.
Oh, all you got to do is look at her campaign. All you got to do is look at her campaign, her campaign report. I'm sure it has payments going out to him, but he is her campaign manager.
Got it. So okay. Well,
so there you go.
Yeah, definitely something to think about.
And it's interesting how our Dade County mayor, who I happen to like, brings along her campaign manager, who has a relationship with Qatar, and it's just a mess. And if it wasn't a mess, I don't think Miami-Dade County. I don't think the Miami Herald would be writing about it.
Well, I'm no campaigning genius, but I'm assuming that she was in Qatar because Christian Ulvert, who is her advisor and her former campaign manager, right, during her previous election, and now an advisor, was invited. Well, probably got. At the request of Qatar, being their lobbyist.
By the way, I want to clear something up. Taxpayers are not paying for this trip. This trip is free. They both got a free trip apparently from what the article says.
We're not paying for it yet.
Yeah, no. It was if it was good enough to sit there and write, if it was good enough for Doug Hanks to write about it in the Herald, it's good enough for me to report that there's something. As he said, it smells like 3-day-old fish.
Yeah. Well, but to your point, I think this really ties back to what you're saying about Mayor Cunningham, with that you're saying that she stands for
nothing.
One thing. Well,
she stands for Mayor Cunningham, and the sooner the residents of Palmetto Bay get this through their through their brains. She stands for nothing except for herself. That's what she stands for. And it's unfortunate because a lot of politicians are that way. I mean, some of the comments that were made in Texas, and we can talk about the shooting. Some of the comments that were made from the governor of Texas and the state senator, or not the U.S. senator in Texas, are just abysmal. It's unbelievable.
So are we moving on to that topic?
Yeah, let's talk about that topic. Go ahead. You want to start, or should I start?
Oh, I don't even know where to start. I mean, one of the reasons I'm actually back here this week is just because of this incident again. And I feel like it's just a repetitive cycle. I feel like every time something like this happens, the immediate response is gun control. And it seems like that's where everybody gets stuck. And again, I'm not saying that gun control isn't something that we need to discuss, but what about responsibility? What about violence in the communities? What about the mental health of people? Or why are these things happening in the first place? And I feel like nobody wants to address the real cause of these issues or why these things are happening. How can we prevent them? And they immediately just want to say, they want to just point out a villain, and the villain is a gun, and they say gun control.
Okay. So I did a little research today. I asked Wikipedia for a list of shootings, school shootings in the United States since 2000, year 2000. Hold on. I'm trying to get to the last page.
Well, while he's looking for that, my question is, does this happen as often in other countries?
Well,
okay.
this is the list. This is right here. And this is printed today, a list of school shootings in the United States since the year 2000. Okay.
Wow.
I think the majority of the school shootings, or the highest death rate, I think, with all the school shootings, I think is actually Texas, who has the most lax gun laws. And by the way, I own probably somewhere around 20 to 25 guns. I believe in the Second Amendment. I'm not going to sit there and be an ultra liberal and say, I don't believe in guns. I believe in gun control. I think guns should be taken away from people, because I really don't. I believe that a citizen of the United States, okay, of the United States, has the right to own a gun in this country. Now, saying that, I think there are ways to sit there and limit the violence with guns, and they're pretty reasonable ways that I think the NRA has been fighting, and other groups. And let me tell you, there's a reason that I am not a member of the NRA, is because they just, anytime you talk about any kind of legislature, they sit there and they say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do this. Well, but
I'm not going to defend them on this one, but I understand the psychology behind it. And I've seen it happen before, right? It's where do you draw the line, right? I mean, most of these situations where people complain about their rights and their liberties and their freedom being taken away, it never happens overnight. So I get that some arguments are, and I'm not agreeing to disagree. I'm just bringing up the point that I understand why some folks who may actually believe in some kind of legislation are resistant at first, because they're saying, well, if we start here, if we open the door for one thing, where does it stop? And that's, I think, the majority of the fear behind it. Not necessarily that they disagree with some kind of legislation. I believe they just fear it in a certain way, that it's going to start some kind of how do you say it? It's going to start a trend, and they're not going to be able to come back from it. Thoughts on that?
Is going to start a downhill trend. Well, I think there's a backstop. Your backstop is federal court and the Supreme Court, as far as what's in the Constitution, right? The Constitution, I don't have it in front of me, but it says the right to bear arms. I get that. Okay. But it was also written over 200 years ago. And when you bear arms, you're talking about taking a gun and loading a little pellet in it and loading gunpowder and stuff like that. We're not talking about
a musket.
Yeah, or a musket. We're not talking
about.
And by the way, I own an AR and AK. My dad was a boot camp sergeant. I was born and raised on a gun range. I've never shot. I've never gone shooting for hunting purposes because I don't like it. I understand people that do it. I don't begrudge people from going out there and hunting as long as they eat the meat. I think hunting for sport, for like lions and tigers and bears, I think that those people should be hung to dry. I'm not into sports shooting unless you're going to eat the.
I think that's just murder. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, it's part of our culture. It is part of our culture. I think people around the world can't necessarily understand why it's part of a culture, but it is. It's a cultural thing. The fact is that there's mental health issues in this country, and there's problems with guns being in the hands of people that are not mentally capable of holding a gun.
And I think that's the issue. Well, I'm glad we agree on this, because I don't like the fact that somebody, if somebody wants to make an inanimate object the symbol of evil, right? And you get into the reason of why do you need this kind of gun or that kind of gun? And I know about some of these gun laws. Like I know some California gun laws, and I'm actually pretty familiar with the subject and some of the rules and regulations the ATF places on them. That makes absolutely no sense. And all of the gun manufacturers and the gun companies do just find a way to work around them. So it doesn't really work. But I don't think anybody actually addresses the fact of why do these things happen, and why are these guns getting into the hands of people that aren't responsible and should never have in the first place. I mean, I'll give one quick analogy. I mean, how many deaths are caused by DUIs every year? Does anybody, if somebody can actually have the stats on that, like
less than suicides.
Okay.
There's more suicides per year than there are DUI deaths.
Okay, now,
you want me to look it up?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
I'd like to know
this really quick.
Yeah, gun violence from gun violence to gun deaths to DUIs. What's the number? But where I'm going with this is, you don't see people protesting and saying, "Why are we selling alcohol?" Right? I mean, we don't say alcohol.
Yeah. Wait. They did raise the legal drinking limit in this country from 18 to 21 to stop the DUI deaths. I mean, they did do that.
Did it make a difference?
Yeah, I think it did make a difference.
Did it?
Yes.
Okay. Well.
Okay. So I mean, they did limit it in some way. I mean, I actually made it. You know, I was able to drink when I was 18. But I mean, I understand the fact that they sit there and they raised the drinking age. I think there's some states that have raised the.
Well, here, but hold on. But let's take a step back here.
Okay, let's see.
They didn't raise the drinking age. They raised the legal age which you can purchase alcohol. Okay, so let's clearly define that. Because I'm pretty sure that there's still a lot of people under the age of 21 who are drinking out there. It's just
I know, but I mean, you know, you're always going to have somebody doing. Okay, so there were one. It's funny that I have a computer in front of me, right? One person every 45 minutes, and two in 2020, 11,654 people died in alcohol impaired driving.
11,654 people died. Mm-hmm. From, you said, alcohol impaired driving, traffic deaths.
Okay.
And this is what year?
2020. So you want to know how many deaths due to guns?
So over 11,000 people. But I like this. You know, just the fact of the matter is, it's over 11,000 people.
The U.S. the U.S. gun death rate was 10. Oh, how great is that, huh? You think we'd have all this beforehand? Was 10 per 100,000 people, which is a lot more than DUIs, by the way. Okay, you keep talking, and I'm looking at this.
Well, I mean, again, I just picked alcohol, but I'm saying there's a ton of other things out here, right? I mean, how many people die just from car accidents? Let's get alcohol out of the equation. How many people die every year of a car accident?
Right? I don't know.
Okay, but
I looked it up. I mean,
well, let's put it. If we know that it's over 11,000,
okay,
purely under the influence of alcohol.
19 in 2020, 19,384 people were murdered with guns.
Okay, so we could say almost close to double.
Almost close to double. Okay, I would say that.
Now, again, I just said alcohol. Now,
okay, but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You ready for this? Because this was always my theory about gun control. If you get a car,
using both hands is not.
I know. If you drive a car,
correct.
Okay, you have to take a class and you have to have a license.
Correct.
Would you consider a car to be less dangerous than a gun?
Absolutely not. I believe that a car can be just as deadly, if not even worse.
Would you, historically wise, has a car been as deadly as a gun? Nobody sits there and takes a car. Well, I'm not going to say nobody because it happens in France and other places. Yeah, but I mean, very few people take a car to run over people to try to kill them. Yes, there are people that are drunk that kill people, okay, but they don't maliciously get in a car and try to run people over and kill them. With a gun, you have to take a gun, okay, and you have to maliciously try to kill somebody. So if a license and a class are good enough for a car, why can't the same rules be govern gun owning a gun?
Well, I'm not. By the way, I'm not disagreeing on this.
No, I just want to know. I mean, I want you to disagree. Go ahead.
Well, no, on this
because I'm just going to make you look like an idiot.
Well, the Swiss own guns, don't they? A bunch.
Oh yeah,
a bunch of guns there, and they do it safely.
Yeah. After World War II, apparently, from actually, I have one of my business partners actually grew up in Switzerland. Yeah.
It's what David education on what these things are.
Well,
These firearms.
I believe they recently actually confiscated them, but for many years, I don't know the recent study, the recent legality, but there was definitely a time where every citizen had one after World War II, and it was just part of their sort of militia.
And
their
I have
national
no
security.
and I have no
But
problem.
I
with
think
that.
since then they've actually
Yeah.
confiscated them. I don't know if that's
Where,
true
in
anymore.
Switzerland?
Yeah, in Switzerland.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah.
I mean, I have no problem with somebody owning a gun. I have no problem with somebody shooting or
yeah,
hunting
but
with
again,
an AR and a.
But why are we
AK.
making this? Okay, so here's my fundamental problem with this whole topic, right? I have children. You have children,
Yeah.
right? Let's just say there was no guns. Okay, this is my question, and I could be wrong. If there was no guns right now
it
in
would
this
never
world,
happen. It's never It's never going to happen
so
in this country.
okay, you're saying that this kid, this 18-year-old kid,
Mhm.
and I say he's still a kid because I mean, young adult.
They're all kids that do
Yeah.
these mass
Yeah,
shootings.
but so had there not been a gun involved, would he have just not committed this type of crime? That's the question. And if
Well, would he have been able to kill so many people? Can you kill
That's
as
the
many
real
people with a
question.
knife?
You can't.
You can't.
don't
I mean,
think
I
you
don't know.
Wait.
In Japan, there was an attack in Japan, and I don't remember how many people died, but a guy went through there on the subway system and killed a
Yeah.
bunch of people with a knife
Once.
once.
You
That's
know,
right.
You
Yeah.
have how many school shootings a year?
No, I get it. No, I mean it's
You know,
crazy. I mean,
that's an
I
outlier.
got to tell you something.
right?
It's absolutely crazy. And it's something else just because I'm reading it. Florida ranks number 2 in the country with the amount of gun owners. I mean, Texas is 1 and Florida is 2.
Correct.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Yeah.
Texas, they have 1 million registered. This is registered guns. You can imagine how many unregistered guns they have. They have 1 million registered gun owners in Texas.
So those are people with a concealed carry permit. Is that
No, you don't need it concealed in Texas.
No?
It's going to be It's going to
Oh.
be like Florida pretty soon. That you don't need to. And that's another ridiculous thing. You're walking around with a gun and it's concealed. You should at least have a license and taken a class.
Well,
I mean, they
well,
got to
in
do
Fl- in
something. They got to tighten up and you know what? It shouldn't be state by state. And I get it. It shouldn't be state by state. It should be a national law.
Yeah, but I want to get back to this because
Okay.
I still don't feel like anybody's giving me a clear answer.
Okay, what kind of answer do you want?
Are we saying if there was no such thing as guns, that this violence in schools would stop?
I
me-
think
a- as a-
I actually think it would stop.
As
I think
a parent, no,
I
this is
think it would. I think it
because
would.
this is
st-
something
I
that
think
really
it would stop
bugs me because-
considerably.
Yeah.
Okay, but on the other side, the NRA says, "Hey, if everybody had a gun, you could have stopped this guy." Well, that's not true because he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and the only way to stop him was shoot him 3 times in the head.
I think
Okay.
once in the head would have sufficed. But yes,
Yeah.
I get your point.
Okay, so I mean, you can register to buy silencers for your gun, which aren't really silencered. That's a misnomer.
Yeah.
And you can buy bulletproof vests if you want. So yeah, you can set yourself up tactically that you're actually
So
in the military.
okay, but again, you're bringing up all these facts, but would he have woken up that morning or that day and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go kill somebody and I'm gonna stab him." Would he said, "I'm gonna
He's gonna
the
stab his
kids.
grandmother.
I'm gonna create a pipe bomb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do so." That's and again, I'm not saying. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is not to argue with you and say
Yeah.
that we shouldn't have gun control, right? Or we shouldn't have some kind of protection, because I definitely think we should. But what I'm trying to say is, what are we doing about the mental health?
Oh
of
no,
these individuals?
it's the last thing. It's the last thing on the list
Well,
of what anybody wants to pay for in this country.
Well, that's my problem.
Oh, yeah.
But why
No,
why
it's
aren't
terrible.
we solving it from the beginning? Which is, why are these kids becoming this way? Why do we see more and more of these type of incidences? Because again, we ban the guns, but it doesn't mean that this kid may not go there tomorrow. And he could burn down the school.
Honestly, I think
Couldn't we argue that he could burn down the school and possibly kill more
I think,
kids?
and I hate to. This is going to make me sound like a really ultra right liberal, but I think the problem with
Also,
Well,
right liberal?
ultra left liberal. I think the problem with some of this is like the movies they watch and the games they play.
Yeah, but ironically on this one,
You know?
I 100% agree with you.
I
because
mean, it's
nobody wants to talk about this.
Your exposure. I'm sorry, guys, my chair's not working properly. Your exposure, the exposure of violence with children now is so much
We-
greater
we
than in the
glorify it.
50s and the 60s. You have these games, and look, once again, my kid plays the games on Xbox. I get it, okay. But sometimes I talk to him. I said, this isn't real life. When you shoot somebody, they're dead for real. They don't get to reset the
It's
game,
called
and they don't get to
respawning.
jump.
They don't
Yeah.
respawn. Yeah.
And what the movies, I mean, you watch a Marvel movie and somebody can die in one movie, and then the next movie they're back.
Yeah.
That's not real life.
Yeah, no,
And that's what you're teaching these kids at a young age.
we've never had this conversation, but yet ironically we see eye to eye.
And that's what
exactly
that's what you're teaching these kids at a young age. And if you look at every single study out there, and I wish Jennifer would call me because she usually watches this program and she's a social worker or a psychologist. Their brains aren't fully developed until they're 23, 24, 25 years old.
They become desensitized to this.
Desensitized, and they don't understand that their actions have consequences that you can't reverse.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
But thank you for finally giving me the answer I wanted to hear, because this is the problem. The immediate knee-jerk reaction of everybody is gun control. Guns. If we didn't have the guns,
well, that's because that's two words that politicians use all the time to get people's attention.
Well, that's not helping your average citizens like me. Okay, just one side ranting about gun control and banning guns, and it's a fight that continues to happen. Yet,
but they can't find any media. But
yet our kids are still getting killed.
And we're going to go through that because I want to say a couple of things that I heard this week that are actually shocking. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans won't ever work on anything that improve and bring our country forward. They just won't do it. I mean, because if they do it, they'll be slaughtered. There's no reaching across the aisle and saying, okay, so maybe, AK and ARs shouldn't be outlawed. Okay, which all the liberals want. But what we do is
I'm gonna pause it again, because again, this is some of the asinine stuff that I gotta listen and hear to people again. That again.
But the average person knows this. They just don't say anything.
Well, that's the problem. So so you hear these things. Okay, we gotta ban assault rifles. Assault rifles have, who needs a military style weapon, and why do you need 30 rounds of ammunition? Okay, great. I don't think people realize you can buy a handgun that holds 30 rounds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's actually more dangerous. You know why? Because you can sneak it. You can put it under your coat, and you can sneak it in anywhere you want, and you still have the clip with the same amount. And then they're saying, okay, well, the bullets for an AK are just as bad as bullets for a handgun. I got to tell you something. A 9mm bullet is going to go through you just like a AK bullet.
It's going to kill a kid just as easily.
Just as easy.
If you're a 5 or 6 year old kid, I'm sorry, but I'm not. My point is that's not going to make me as a parent feel safer. I'm sorry. So somebody whose sole agenda is, I'm going to ban assault weapons and your kids are going to be safe in school. I'm sorry, sir or ma'am, but no, it's not going to work for me. It's not solving my problem, because a person can go in there just as easily if they're psychotic and sick in the head with a handgun and cause.
If they're with lots of clips, they could have like 20 clips.
Yeah, from my understanding, that this individual, this specific incident, he went inside the classroom, closed the door, and he basically started murdering these children, innocent children. I mean, so it doesn't matter to me if he had an assault rifle, a pistol, a handgun, a revolver, all in one class. It was going to happen, right? So don't tell me that by banning an assault rifle, you're going to save my kids, right? I mean, that's my problem, is that they want to just throw out and maybe it's a politically motivated agenda. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's because it's a politicized topic. People just want to say, oh yeah, if we ban this assault rifle, your kids are going to be safe. But
isn't your kid? Yeah. I mean,
I want to educate everybody out there that don't buy into this rhetoric and this nonsense, because your kids are going to be just as unsafe, and they're going to be just as in potential harm's way if we don't solve the underlying problem.
The underlying problem is mental health. The underlying problem is access, not guns, but access to guns is just so easy. You could probably go to a street corner and get an unregistered gun if you walk around, the city of Miami. And I know you can probably do it in Texas, and there are other states. I mean, listen, New York has some of the toughest gun laws in the world, and there's still been gun deaths. I mean, so I don't think taking away guns isn't going to do anything. You gotta stick with a national registry where you can look it up. You gotta have a cooling off period of a couple of days. I'm not 100% sure I agree with an 18-year-old owning an AR or an AK. But even that, if they get it from a friend, like you saw what happened up in, where was that? There was the riots. Yeah, Wisconsin. He got it from a friend. Yeah. And
somebody legally purchased
it and let him use it. You should have literally, if you have a gun, you should have a minimum liability. You should have some sort of insurance.
Yeah. And please don't take me wrong, Dave. Don't take it wrong. I am not saying in any way, or I'm not minimizing the fact that owning a weapon it is a weapon. A gun is a weapon. I mean, listen, ultimately, originally it was designed as a weapon, right? Whether it's a weapon to use
No,
against
it's
other people.
it's a weapon.
Or-
anything that has the ability to kill somebody is a weapon.
A person or an animal.
Yeah.
It's a weapon. So it is what it is. Let's call
I
it
have a
what it is.
Bowie knife, and that's a weapon.
Yeah, it's a weapon.
Right.
Now, at the same time, yes, these guns, it can be used for hobby, recreation. They have many other uses that are nonviolent, perfectly healthy, and I do feel sorry for the and there's a lot, and I have a lot of friends that love shooting, that love
I love
recreation,
shooting.
recreational shooting. It's a sport for them. It's a hobby. They have not an ounce of violence in their heart.
Yeah.
And would never use it to hurt another person or to take a life.
Yeah.
Yet I 100% believe that there's still, because it's a weapon, just like a car, just like a motor vehicle, right? We need to find a way to get these guns out of the people's hands who should never own one. And there's certain people, I have friends that actually say, I will never own a gun because I know I can't control my temper. And I salute them. I say, wow, that's very impressive.
That's pretty mature, actually.
Yeah, that they tell me straightforward. They said, listen, I would never own a gun because I know my temper. I can't control my temper, and I don't want to be in a scenario where I resort to my gun. And you hear about this all the time. There's these road rages where somebody cuts somebody else off, and their response is to pull out a gun and to shoot somebody. So you tell me now, if we ban assault rifles, is that going to solve that problem? How do I stop that person who should have, who has anger issues?
but I got to tell you something. There should be. I mean, a gun, not gun control laws, but laws on the states and the federal level should be, if you're committing a crime with a gun, okay, and there's an ability for that gun to go off, that you serve a minimum 25 years in jail. I mean, no, getting out of jail because the jail's overcrowded, no getting out of jail because of good behavior or anything. You sit there and you pull a gun on somebody and threaten to shoot them. Okay, you're going away for 25 years. And I got to tell you something, you take everybody, and this could be a topic we might not get to today, but you take everybody who's been in jail for smoking pot. Oh, God. Okay, and you sit there and you say, okay, nonviolent crime, see you later, have a nice day. Thank you very much. There'll be plenty of room in jails for those people who are using a gun in an armed robbery or something illegal.
Yeah, and we all know, I mean, back when was it, in 2018, we had the whole Parkland shooting.
Yes.
And where did he get his gun from his father or something? What was the story of? Does anybody remember that one?
I don't remember the story.
Yeah, I believe it was an unsecured
That
weapon.
was what, 17 people that died?
Yeah. So so I definitely feel that people should be held accountable. So if your son
if
or
you have
daughter,
I'm telling you, I think if you have a gun, I'm going to fix my chair again because I'm either going to have to start losing weight or getting a different chair, or both. No, if you have a gun, you should have some sort of minimum liability insurance policy.
Well, okay.
Which is, by the way, it doesn't work. It's an after the fact thing.
Yeah, it's not going to help.
It's not going to help somebody who
if you killed me. But
but
I think more importantly, I think people should understand that they're liable, right? If you own if you own a handgun, and you're not, and you let it get into the wrong hands, then it's your responsibility.
Look, all my guns are in a lock safe.
Yeah, and that's
literally,
and that's where it should be.
I mean, the problem is if somebody breaks in your house, okay, you're going to have to go to your safe and unlock your safe to grab your gun. Now you can have a gun safe that's right by your bed. That's fine too.
Yeah, and they have it.
But all my guns, I don't keep any of my guns. I don't keep the clips in any of my guns. Okay, so you have to get the clip and you have to get the gun, and everybody's like, well, why do you own the guns then? Well, number one, if somebody broke in my house, unless they had a gun, I probably wouldn't shoot them because I can't see shooting a person.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, I own guns for different reasons. I don't own guns
and I'm going to take the other stream now because I have friends in all walks of life, and I do have all these other ones that have these fantastical fantasies of somebody breaking into their home and I'm going to pull out my gun and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I stop and I say, listen, why is there even any joy in wanting to shoot somebody, right? Why do you think of that moment? I say, I pray to God that nobody ever comes into my house, and I'm never in a situation where I have to take someone else's life. Yet alone, these people fantasize and have these, these tactical folks that have all this gear.
No, that's because they play a lot of Xbox games and they think they're a weekend warrior.
I mean, who really wants to kill somebody?
I really think a lot of this, and they're going to say, oh, you're going to sue the Xbox company and stuff like that. I go, no, but it would be nice if and I'm not the person to be saying this, but that parents sat there and knew what these games were about and got involved in a kid's life and tried to limit their access to these games, especially if you're under the age of 18.
No, but listen, on that, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I've said this for many years. I mean, this was way back, when we do a lot of work in education, training, and software development. And I asked myself one time, I was like, how come you don't see a lot of popular games that actually promotes learning and helping and friendliness?
Because they wouldn't sell.
And kindness. if you really think about it, all the games are destruction, murder, mayhem. I'm not going to name any of these because I'm not here to try to call out any of these games, but they really glorify violence, drugs, death, killing, prostitution. But yet there is no game out there that is, hey, how do we solve problems? How do we help things? Right? How do we save the environment? How do we become better people? And unfortunately, like you said, it doesn't sell perhaps, and there's nobody who makes money out of it. But I just think we as people, but you see, understand it's a fundamental problem here. It's not gun control. It's not let's assault. Well,
it's not. There's not one solution that's going to fix this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, and that's basically it. Everybody thinks, oh, gun control is going to fix this. It's not going to fix it. I mean, I got to tell you what's surprising to me, and I'm sure Palmetto Bay isn't any different than any other municipality in Dade County or in Broward County or in the state of Florida. I was on a phone call last night, and we're talking about the parks.
Yeah.
The parks in Palmetto Bay and how beautiful the parks are and this and that. And I asked a question because they have this like group on the phone and the village manager's on the phone and the mayor's on the phone and the parks director on the phone. I said, do you guys have any protocols for an active shooter in any of our parks? We have some of the best parks literally in Dade County are in Palmetto Bay. They're unbelievable. Although I think they need to be maintained a little better, but that's for a different show. And they said no. I said, okay, we have Coral Reef Parks that's sitting there right next to, and by the way, I'm not calling out Palmetto Bay for this because I think it's probably countywide. I said, you have Coral Reef School next. It's an elementary school. I said, to me, it seems like it would be easier for an active shooter to go to the park.
Yeah.
Okay. Than the school where the school was locked down and there's a lot of room in Coral Reef Park to shoot and fire at people, especially if you go there on a Saturday. They don't screen. They're supposed to, but they don't screen
or mow them down with your vehicle.
Or they don't screen any of the vendors. They're supposed to screen the vendors to make sure they don't have any criminal record. But of course, Palmetto Bay usurps that law and just says, oh, we don't need to do that. It's literally a law that you got to screen every single vendor. And I've been yelling for like 2 years now, and they don't screen one vendor. So you could get a vendor in there, or you could get somebody just walking through there with a gun. Okay. And they could start mowing people over. They have no protocols at all for active shooters in the parks. And they do in the school. I will say that, but they don't in the parks. And to me, it would be easier to take people out. Sorry for the term, in a park when they can't run behind closed doors. Okay. So Dade County needs to start looking at this countywide to sit there. If they can put protocols in for an active shooter in one of our parks, because next thing you know, you're going to hear about, you're going to hear about that.
Yeah. Well,
because people are nuts.
Again, one problem with everything you just said.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop the fact that somebody started shooting. So
no, but you could have a safe look. You could have a safe room in the parks where people run in the parks. You could have emergency phones. Can you imagine running with your phone and trying to dial 911?
Well,
you can have emergency phones around the parks to grab a.
I'm in agreement. Yeah. As long as we can both agree that the fundamental implementation of some type of prevention needs to be enforced. So before we're talking about all the things like even people talk about, okay, the assault rifle bans, more security in schools, better response times. Listen, I've heard, I have kids in school and I've heard what they have to do. I mean, it's funny because in my school, they call it, they make a game out of it, right? It's one elementary school. And they make a game out of it and they say, hey, we're playing hide from the principal.
Oh, is that like duck and cover for a nuclear war that I used to have to play in the 60s? You're way too young for that. Sadine's going, what's duck and cover? They used to try to,
is that the Cold War thing?
Yeah, the Cold War thing. When we were little kids, they used to hide underneath the desks. Okay. Because a nuclear bomb was coming.
But that's the reality. They can't tell the kids, listen, there's an active shooter in our school that's trying to kill you. So they say, hey, we're playing the game. Whenever you hear this code, it's hide from the principal, and we're going to the designated spots. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But this active shooter is still going to cause harm. They're still going to kill people. I don't care how fast your response time is, how much we try to mitigate the situation. Listen, let me ask you a question. So there was how many children died in this last school shooting? How many children died?
19. I think 19 died, and then 2 parents.
Okay, so 19 children died and 2 parents died.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, so great. Here's what I'm gonna pose. Here's the question that I posed.
Sit there.
to all these single-minded individuals out there that want to just pass one piece of legislation, think it's going to solve the problem. So
It's not.
yeah, we see all these faces, and Gina, thank you for putting that up, because there are faces behind. These are people. These are somebody's kids. Okay, these are somebody's family members. It's not just a name, and it's not just a number. These are real people that somebody was expecting to see later on that day. So now you tell me, David. Okay, we passed the strictest anti-gun, we ban all guns.
That's all politics.
No,
First of all, you're not going to ban guns in this
we
country.
eradicated guns. So let me tell you. Okay, so the person went in there in a knife, and we had the best active shooter response team. We had the best protocols in place. We had police that were going to respond in 10 seconds or less. Great. The assailant, this kid, was only going to murder one kid. Gina, pull that picture back up. Pull that picture back up, Gina. Okay, one kid. Now, we're not going to have mass shootings anymore, but one of these kids are going to die. David, pick which one gets to die.
I'm not doing that.
Okay, you're not going to do it, right? Why aren't you going to do it?
Because it's sick.
Exactly, because it's sick. So basically, my problem is we're trying to say, if we can increase response time, we have active shooter protocols, or we do this, we're limiting. Now, instead of 19 people getting murdered, we're gonna limit it to 5. Are you okay with that? Are you gonna make a decision and say, okay, well, now 5 of these kids are gonna die?
Would you rather all of them die, Mo?
No, I would rather us address the real issue: is how do we stop these things from happening in the first place? How do we reduce?
We should stop them.
How
We should stop it. We should absolutely stop.
There
all
you
of
go.
it.
Okay,
But until we find a way to
But
do
no
that, we
one's-
should absolutely
but
take
no one's-
measures to reduce
no one's
it.
talking about the way though. That's my question. This. I never hear of somebody saying, "Hey, what could we do to stop?" It's from one shooting to the next.
Oh no, no, no! It will be
this
the
is-
hot. This will be the hot topic. Sorry,
there
guys.
you go. Thank
This will
you.
be the hot topic for the next 2 weeks until 6 months from now when it happens again.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Okay,
Everybody,
and that's the problem.
you have
And
all the politicians standing
here-
up on their soapboxes talking about how sad it's a tragedy. Oh
Here,
my God.
Let's go through this. Okay, so Virginia Tech. Okay, 2007, 32 victims. I remember everybody talking about that one. Okay, Sandy Hook Elementary School, 2012, 26 victims. I remember everybody talking about that one too. Majority Stone Douglas. Sorry, guys. February 2018, 17 victims. Okay. By the way, my
Right in our backyard.
my nephews, both my nephews went to that school.
Yeah. No, it's real.
Community College. I can't pronounce that word. The name. 2015, nine victims. Red Lake Senior High School, 2005, 7 victims. Another university, 7 victims. West Nichols Mine School, 5 victims. I mean, you'll see it. You'll see people pray. Okay. You'll see it on the news constantly.
And Columbine.
You'll
Let's
see.
not forget Columbine.
Oh, Columbine was actually.
1999.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not on my list.
13 people died.
Yeah. I mean, but you'll see it on the news for the next 2 weeks. You'll see praying. You'll see it. Politicians praying.
My heart felt this, and my thoughts and prayers.
And then it will be off the radar
It
because
gets old. Yeah,
it doesn't sell newspapers anymore. Okay. And what does it say? And this is terrible, but what bleeds leads. What bleeds leads. Okay. So it will be literally off everybody's radar until the next time. And it happens. I mean, like I said, this is the list. This is the list of all the shootings in schools since 2020. And you know what? If you look at this, this is like 5 per page. This is insane. 6 per page, 5 per page, and it goes through every single one of them. And if you don't believe me, go to Wikipedia. Okay, because I don't make this shit up. I just don't.
Yeah.
I
So
think you touched on something very important earlier, David, but you just touched on it and you never went back to it. You're not a part of a certain enormous gun group that a lot of people are a part of.
Yeah, because they don't want to admit that there's a problem.
They
And
don't.
their answer to everything is, unfortunately, well, everybody should buy more guns.
You know, and the problem is that I think they operate as a business, don't they?
They're a bankrupt business, but yes, they had to declare bankruptcy.
They did.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's the problem. And I'd be happy to be part of the NRA. They send me literature all the time, but I'm not doing it until they admit there's a problem. I mean, you can't solve anything until, you know what they say about alcoholics?
yeah. Well, until you admit you have a problem.
Yeah,
Well,
until you admit you have a problem, and there's a problem. In
But
this country.
again, not defending him, but in all fairness, until both sides understand and because one side is provocating that, hey, this is the answer, this is the golden ticket. If we do this, then all of our problems are going to be solved.
It's about compromise. And
Both,
balance.
both need to put down their quote unquote arms and say,
But they're
hey,
playing to their base.
yeah,
Right? Because they're nuts out there. I mean, it's like what I said about the strong right and strong left. And I
told you about the moral majority in the middle that gets
trampled on, right?
That gets dragged.
The ones that the people that are in the middle are probably the brightest ones, right?
Yeah.
And you got the other two sides that aren't. But listen, this is what's going to kill me. What kills me is let's talk about, and I mentioned this earlier to you, is the people that are anti-abortion don't want gun control laws. Okay, now it's okay, that the kid goes through term to 9 months and is born. Okay, but after they're born,
we don't want to keep them safe.
We don't want to keep them safe, right? We don't want anything to prohibit us from or to stop us or delay us from getting guns that could kill these kids. And unfortunately, the majority of what's going on is affecting kids, right? It's the kids that are getting killed in school, whether it's in elementary school or high school or college. It's the youth of America, because it's the youth of America that's using the guns to kill.
You mean our future, right?
Yes, our future. So it's the youth of America that's getting a hold of guns and killing our kids. Okay. But it's okay because, we believe in we're anti-abortion. You got to sit there and take the same response to being anti-abortion and trying to protect the kids after they're born. And you just don't have it. It's so hypocritical. It's amazing. Anybody want to call in and talk to us about this? It's 786-584-7665. Or if you want to send an email, you're more than welcome to do that too. So, I mean,
chat message.
Oh no, I can't read that from here.
No, it's just a restream.
Yeah.
Got it.
So anyway, I mean, if you're going to sit there and say, okay, I'm anti-abortion, and if you're raped or if there's incest, you still have to, like Oklahoma today, they just signed the toughest anti-abortion law in the United States. Once somebody becomes pregnant, they cannot get an abortion. Okay, in Oklahoma. No way for any reason.
Once somebody becomes pregnant, they can't get an abortion.
Right?
Okay, but so I can get abortion until I'm pregnant.
Well, you know what I mean. But the fact of the matter is, but they probably have the least strict gun laws in the country too. Okay, so it's okay to go. I don't know. It just, to me, that seems so hypocritical. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but I think you made some really good points that I agreed with. I think the gun culture, the violent culture that we have, that we live in, right? All the movies, I 100% agree with you about how we glorify violence in movies, right? And I have a lot of friends that were in the service and have come back from places, overseas, and and they tell me the stories. And guess what? When you're getting shot or when you're getting killed, there's no amazing soundtrack, theatrical soundtrack, moving theme music in the background. There's no slow,
it's not a cartoon.
Yeah, it's not a cartoon. You don't get to respawn. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. But people watch these movies and they see these action heroes getting blown up, flung across. And you're right. Again, us as adults, we understand it for what it is. It's entertainment. It has no relevance to real life. We can compartmentalize, at least most adults can compartmentalize it as just entertainment, move on with their life, right? But you're right. As an impressionable child, they mimic a lot of the stuff that they do in real life. It's actually mimicked based on what they're watching on the screens. And what people don't realize is that when they're watching these Hollywood movies all the time and seeing people get shot, killed, like you said, they see me get in the next movie, right? They get shot and they miraculously get 7 gunshot wounds and they live to tell about it the next day, right? That's not how real life is.
No.
And they play these video games where their whole motivation behind the video game
is to kill the other person.
And ironically, and not of them even, some of them at least, you're killing the other person for positive reasons. And a lot of these games, it's not even positive reasons. It's purely for the sport of killing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is I have friends, and I love them dearly. They don't let their kids cuss. They refuse to let their kids cuss, right? It's no cussing in the house. But they all play these violent video games.
I think you'd love the South Park movie.
I mean, think about that. They all kill they all are in there playing with their Xboxes or whatever the hell they have. They're playing these violent games, but the second somebody says the F word, mother comes in and says, "Don't do that while you're killing people." So, I mean, it's crazy, right?
You would love the South Park movie, David.
I mean, how
it's
crazy
all
is it?
about that.
Is that
I'm
really?
gonna watch
It
it. South
is.
Park.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. You can sit there.
90s?
You can kill people in video games, but don't you use the F word.
Yeah.
while
Okay.
you're murdering innocent
Or
people.
while you're murdering innocent people, or don't
Yeah.
use the, if you get killed, don't use the S word, okay? Because that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, whatever. Different strokes for different folks. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking these games,
Yeah.
by the way. I'm not saying that they're all horrible, but what I'm saying is that we don't spend enough time looking at the foundation of these kids. We don't spend enough time on developing their moral aptitude, right? I mean, their moral compass.
Well, their
And-
morals are picked up. Their morals, unfortunately, are picked up in today's day and age from what they see in the movies, what they see on TV, the video games. I mean, you know,
well, we know them,
people. It's not like it used to be, right? In the 50s, where you have one parent at home. And I'm not saying I want to go back to the 50s. Okay. So anybody who's watching this and thinks I want to go back to the 50s are totally off base. But you had one person that was home. Okay. Usually the mother. Okay. And you had the father that went out to work, and the mother sat there and she was really involved in
Well-
her kids' day-to-day life and all that. Or, you know,
The-
but
we-
today both parents have to work to make
Yeah.
ends meet. Okay. They usually have a nanny or something who's sitting there that is
On the
watching
phone.
the kids or on the phone or
Yeah.
or what, while the kids are sitting there playing video games. It's a breakdown. It's and
Yeah,
once again, I'm gonna get screamed at for this. It's a breakdown of the family unit for the most part, because nobody's really watching the kids and watching what they do.
Yeah, but I think you're absolutely right, and yeah, I get your point. We understand your intent behind it. It wasn't saying in the 50s with the mother's paternal maternal role and the father going to work.
Mm.
But the point I get the point you're trying to make. The point you're trying to make is that you as a parent, there was somebody there whose sole responsibility was, listen, I have to.
I
raise-
was a latchkey kid. Don't kid yourself. That's why I'm blaming everything on me being a latchkey. And if people don't know what a latchkey is, look it up on the dictionary. I mean, I went home. I had my own key after I was 13.
Yeah.
Okay. My sister babysat me before that, you know, so I mean, whatever. It is the way it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't able to get on a video game because there was no video games. And
Well,
literally I went home and watched Gilligan's Island.
Well, I think that's the point. You
Yeah.
had there was a lot more control, and there was a lot more limits on what you could be exposed to.
Yeah, we had three TV channels. Okay, there was a certain guidelines on what you could show between the hours
Oh, yeah.
of like 5 and 8 o'clock. Okay, we watched I Love Lucy. I'm dating myself. Reruns of I Love Lucy, right? Not the original episodes. You know,
The
I remember.
Honeymooners.
No, I don't remember the Honeymooners, but I do remember Gilligan's Island. I remember Bewitched and stuff like that. But those were just dumb TV programs, right? They weren't violent TV programs.
Yeah.
These kids these days,
Yeah.
they'll go home unless they're involved in sports. They'll sit in front of the computer. They'll play violent games. They'll play violent games on Xbox, okay, or they'll pull up on Cinemax or HBO and they'll put on a violent program.
What's that term that they're using in games where it's called swatting, where they actually call the
It's this thing people do in streaming where
Yeah.
if they don't like someone, they'll call the SWAT to their address.
yeah, it's called swatting. They literally
Yeah.
do this.
Oh, I've seen that.
You've heard about
Somebody
that,
got
right?
killed.
Yeah,
About a year and a half ago or something.
but,
Yeah,
but it's a real thing. I mean, think
No.
about it. So there. I mean, how much more proof do you need that this type of violence just continues to perpetuate this insanity and this other violence? I mean, you have kids out there calling it as a prank, you know, the police and saying that there's a threat and a person with a active shooter, getting SWAT to go to these other kids' houses and in instances shooting them by accident because they think it's a real violent crime and no one
Yeah.
can find them and get away with it.
no,
So,
there was somebody that was definitely killed. And
I know you
yeah.
looked at the time. I know we're
no,
starting-
we're okay. We got
Yeah,
about
well,
6 minutes.
Yeah, but I know
I
you
do
want
want to. I do want to talk about a couple of things. So
Yeah.
you know, I heard a lot of politicians talk about the shooting. Okay, and one of them actually said the parents have the responsibility to protect their kids.
What?
What a bunch of hogwash. Okay, and I wish I could remember
Wait,
the name of the politician.
Somebody really
remember
said that? Is this
yeah,
recent?
remember the name of the politician that said that. You are so full of shit, buddy. Okay, when you drop your kids off at school, you think that the system is going to protect your kids. Your obligation, okay, stops when you drop those kids off at school and the principal's there and the vice principal's there and the teachers are there. You have no earthly clue that somebody's going to come in, okay, and shoot the play. I mean, you cannot be responsible while you're at your job to protect your kids. So I'm telling you right now, I was so furious when he said it. He actually said the parents' responsibility is to protect their kids and make sure that the school has has, okay, so he said the school has metal detectors and the school, you know what? That's not a parent's job. A parent has to depend on the system. And if a parent can't depend on the system, then our system's broken.
Yeah.
It is totally freaking broken. If you drop a kid off at school and you don't think that kid's coming home to give you a kiss at night, okay, and so you can tuck him or her into bed. I was so disgusted. And the other thing is, they were talking about hardening schools. And I'm like, okay, so every single school should be like a prison?
Goes back to my moral problems, is that why aren't we preventing these things? You're absolutely right.
But how, what do you do about that? Okay, so we've already had one ingress and one egress in schools now. Okay, and you usually have a security officer, and you got somebody checking in.
Point so you can kill more kids.
I mean, it's just all the excuses that have come out of politicians' mouth who don't want to address the underlying problem of making sure that whoever gets a hold of a gun hasn't been in jail, is not mentally deranged. There's a cooling off period. They're over the age of 18 or 21. I would prefer it to be 21. Okay. Unless you're in the military, has some sort of training on a gun's not really your friend.
No.
I mean, a gun is a dangerous weapon. I mean, why don't we just make flamethrowers? Okay, legal. Everybody can have a flamethrower because it's in the Constitution. There's some things you have to sit there, and we have to fix the system. The system is broken when it comes to guns. And I'm not saying take guns away from people, because I'm not giving up my guns.
Yeah, well, I'd like to just piggyback on it. Don't run out of time. I think there's just two things I want to say, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come back today. One is to the actual politicians, and it's really piggybacking off what David said. You guys need to stop making excuses. You need to stop taking these hardline stances. We need to solve the problem, right? We need to solve the cause of these problems. Now, I understand that we need to immediately implement some stopgaps. We know this, right? And we talked about it. Yes, if there's certain things we could do to mitigate the damage, right, to mitigate the deaths. But in no way, shape, or form am I going back to that picture and saying, hey, I want to pick 3 people. Instead of 19 people, it's okay if 5 people die. That's not
okay if anybody dies.
That's not okay for me. So besides all these things that we can do today immediately to mitigate these deaths, what are we doing? What are we proposing to do as a society, as a community, as a country to prevent these, right? To actually eliminate some of them. It's never going to be perfect. Something's always going to happen. So we're not asking for perfection. But I'm asking all you elected officials to stop with these heartfelt speeches and these photo ops, and actually come up with something that says, hey, I'm gonna make the hard right decision and say, listen, we have problems as a country, and we need to do something about it. We need to train. We need to teach our kids better, right? And to all the citizens out there, you need to stop listening to this fake rhetoric. You need to stop letting them pull you.
Yeah, all the citizens out there, you need to stop voting for people who sit there and all they do is take selfies and talk BS.
Yeah, well,
okay, what you want is some sort of action on this issue.
Who's going to take a stand?
And who's going to take a stand, and whether it's action too far to the right, too far to the left, it still needs some sort of action, and we can adjust it as time goes on. Okay, not one thing is going to cure this. Okay, it's going to take a lot more than one thing. But the problem with damn politicians these days is they're so busy getting on Facebook and YouTube and making these speeches, okay, that they're not moving the ball to help anybody's safety. And it's not just on this issue, it's on a bunch of issues. Okay, we got a bunch of politicians who think to get reelected, they have to sit there and take selfies and do absolutely nothing because they can't get in trouble. Somebody once told me,
well, we accept it. That's the problem.
Somebody once told me that a bureaucrat can never get in trouble for saying no. Okay, it's the best way to save their job.
Yeah, well,
because they're not taking a stance on anything.
But again, it's not their fault. It's our fault.
It's definitely our fault.
No, it's our fault as citizens for accepting it. We need to say, listen, it's enough already. Do something. Don't play it safe all the time. Oh, I can't do this because I have these people are going to stand for something. But again, I'm the reason I'm not blaming the politics. It's us. It's us as community members. Say we're okay. I don't want to live in a police state. Bottom line is, I don't want to live in a police state. I don't want more Big Brother watching us. I don't want more controls, more legislation. I want people to find better ways to avoid these situations from happening in the first place. That's what I'd like. I'd like to see time and energy be spent on that instead of just pointing fingers or just blaming an inanimate object on all of our problems because we just feel good about ourselves when we wake up the next day.
I'm with you. But
sorry for my rant and rave.
We both did a lot of ranting and raving today. I kind of like it.
It's again, I have 3 young children. I can't imagine what I would do in a situation. I mean, people say, "Oh yeah, I feel so bad for nobody." I think can say, "Oh, my heart goes out to you. I'm suffering with you." No. Nobody knows how those parents and those family members are feeling today because they didn't lose a child. Okay, they didn't lose a child in the manner that these people lost their child. So
They dropped them off at school and expect them to kiss them when they come home.
Exactly. And nobody can stand out there and get on a podium and in front of a microphone and say, oh, you know, my heart goes out to you. I feel your pain and stuff. No, you don't. You have no idea. And I don't want to know.
It's just a perfect stump speech.
Yeah.
And all it is and all it does, especially if you don't move the ball forward, is it's used for to get people reelected. And that's the problem with politicians now. All they give a shit about is one thing, and that's getting themselves reelected and not doing the right thing.
Well, we
and that's where we are as a country.
And we can't accept it anymore.
And we cannot accept it anymore. Okay. Anyway, we got to go. Our hour's up. I appreciate everybody who's watched this live. I appreciate everybody who's going to watch this later on down the road. I would tell everybody, go home tonight if you have kids and give them a big kiss. Because the way we're going, you never know. Okay. One day at a time. Peace out. Stay safe. And good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
No, thank you.